A dude that does this, crowning himself,
Aura.
that's the opposite of aura.
He is responsible for the detriment of the NBA.
Let's also talk about Kyle Kuzma, how he passed him the ball during the bubble to make
Let's
that.
talk about Kyle Kuzma as a sentence I did not expect to hear today.
That's the thing with LeBron. We always redefine that line of clutch.
You
We
picked your
have
line.
to-
LeBron has to go jump from team to team. He's a glorified Patrick McCaw.
I'm actually a bigger Jimmy Butler hater than freaking LeBron.
That's apparent. That's apparent.
Jimmy Butler is annoying. His team sucks.
This is not what I expected. Welcome to One Fan vs. 10 Haters. We have Isaac here, supernova prodigy, who's about to debate 10 of LeBron's biggest haters. We have a series of debate questions. If by the end of this you can convince one of them to become a LeBron fan, you win. If not, the haters win, which is obviously what I want to happen. First topic, no one will break LeBron James' scoring record.
I know you're finna say some shit you do not believe. Let me hear it.
I believe all of it.
Show him some respect.
Somebody is going to break LeBron's all-time scoring record. You think that just because he's doing it now, nobody's going to come after him and break him. That's what we thought about Kareem. And then guess what? Somebody broke it. Every single year, the NBA is becoming more efficient. It's getting easier for teams to score. Teams are getting smarter. All players are coming up and are learning 3 is more than 2. And so the way that people are learning how to play basketball is inherently more efficient. So people are going to come through. There's some middle schooler right now that's taking 30-footers who's going to show up, and he's going to break LeBron's scoring record. You don't think it's going to happen, but it probably will.
Yeah. And again, if the argument is for the entirety of space and time, something is more likely to happen than never, sure, that's not really refutable. But if we're being practical and we're talking about what you can actually envision based on something you see and you predict, there's no real reason to think that other than hope. We can say that, 3 is more than 2, and the game has made this much of a change in the last 20 years. Maybe it'll make that same change 20 more years. It's not really linear. There's only so much pushing of the envelope you can do. And while we've seen that huge envelope push happen in our time, that's not a guarantee that we're going to see another one. There's only so much space on the court, so much more math you can exploit. So I think maybe we're close to peak efficiency. If we're not and it keeps going up, fine. But you still have to reckon with the fact that somebody has to come in the league, be amazing right away, and be amazing for like 25 years without ever missing a full season of injury. The closest one is like Kevin Durant. He's missed several full seasons of injury because it's honestly, he's hilariously lucky to never have torn an ACL in 25 years. Do you expect the next great star, who's a great star from 19, to be hilariously lucky for 25 years? I wouldn't. Yeah, maybe he's cheating. I don't know, but you better hope the next GOAT cheats too then, because I don't see any reason why that's going to happen or any reason to expect that.
Listen, if you want to talk about that, the way that the game is being played, that's getting better. That's being more efficient. You want to talk about medicine, that's getting better. That's more efficient. Everything is being set up for players. Everything is being set up for players to come in bigger, better, faster, stronger, which is what you say about every single generation afterwards. You may not think that it's going to be some massive explosion to where in 5 years we're going to instantly get the next GOAT. Basketball is going to be played for a long time, and the incremental differences, eventually we're going to get to 2055 and there's going to be some crazy kid and he's going to come along and be the next GOAT. He's going to break LeBron's record.
If the record's broken in 2099 when we're all long gone, then you got it. You can have it.
I'm a win.
From the grave.
All right, I got a lot to say, but first off, let me just show you my shirt. It's kind of hot in here.
Got a costume change? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, LeBron relied a lot on athleticism to go score all those points. We have players now like Luka who score like 30 points a night consistently without relying a lot on athleticism. And like this era too, you're shooting a lot more 3-pointers than ever before. So in what world would I not think someone who's taking more 3-pointers, scores 30 points a game at the age of 19, is not going to pass LeBron's scoring record? It sounds kind of ridiculous.
Okay, well, obviously relying on athleticism isn't true. We know he's extremely skilled, but I'll let you have that. Because the truth is, you need athleticism, especially as you age. All these guys that rely on skill, eventually you have a little bit of athleticism that lets you make that skill happen. When that goes, it goes fast. That's what you talk about. A lot of small point guards end up, aging not super good because as soon as they lose that little edge they have that lets them use the other skills they have, they fall off a cliff. And while I think Luka's amazing, he is more athletic than you think, so we'll say that. He's not relying off of no athleticism. He's really good at change of speed and all this stuff that isn't necessarily running and jumping fast. He's athletic in his own way. As soon as he loses that, whatever age that may be, let's call it 35, he's going to be relying on a lot of tough buckets more than he does now. And you need to have some baseline of athleticism to age well. People don't typically age well as a volume scorer unless they're very athletic. So you think of the best players that age well of all time. Chris Paul, Tim Duncan. They weren't out here averaging 25 at the age of 36. That's not the way their game's evolved.
They also don't rely on athleticism as much as LeBron does. Are you saying LeBron doesn't rely on his athleticism?
Anybody who has a high volume scoring relies on athleticism to some extent.
But LeBron doesn't rely on it more than other players?
No, he's more athletic than other players. The word rely implies that's all he has and that he needs that. Dude, have you seen the last couple of years? That guy is not jumping high anymore. Those eyes are not going above the rim anymore.
LeBron still not jumping high.
Not as high as he was. His forehead is barely touching the rim.
And Luka just relies on step back 3-pointers.
All right.
All right, so let me tell you what your GOAT did.
Okay.
Your GOAT created a whole generation of stat stuffers. More than ever.
Okay.
Right? Everyone's about the stats. It's not about winning anymore. That's Jordan's generation. So you have all these people coming in, stuffing the stats. You have guys like TJ Warren putting up 50-point games. That dude's not even on a roster. If he can do that, what do you mean it's never going to be broken? Then we're like, oh my God, LeBron was a freak of nature, 6'8", 250, right? Well, then we've seen another freak of nature in Wemby, 7'4", and can shoot it, right? Think about the next freak of nature. Not to mention that medicine has gotten insanely better and will continue to get better. Or what if, this is going to be crazy for a LeBron guy to try to visualize, but what if we get a generation that's actually tougher? You know, guys who could play back-to-back. Woo!
Guys who went to
That's
war.
so crazy.
Pick themselves up by their bootstraps.
82 games. And the last point I'm going to make to you is the NBA has turned to an offensive league. They have literally changed the rules to make players score more. Like the no hands-on rule. We heard last season they were talking about getting rid of the charge. I mean, how much pushes of help do these offensive players need to surpass LeBron? It's going to happen. It's probably going to happen multiple times. And LeBron will be a thing of the past, just like y'all try to do to Jordan.
First thing I'd like to say is I love the implication that TJ Warren scored 50 off the backbone of LeBron James' existence in this world. I think we should do that with every random 50-point. Corey Brewer, let's give that one to Kobe. Let's just attribute it to every random star because we can. And, you know, modern medicine is getting better. It's good now, and guys still can't play healthy seasons now. It's still an issue that every NBA star gets hurt. And I think it's under-talked about that is becoming a huge thing. Almost no stars can survive. Why was that on?
Why do you think? It's my call. Finish your sentence and move on. What do you mean?
Players can't stay healthy now. I don't know if that's going to get fixed over time. It's under-talked about how much the spacing has caused that to be a thing. So maybe we'll just cure ACL tears one day and we can just pop a pill and cure it overnight. Maybe that's possible. Maybe we'll have some Harry Potter growth spells that immediately make you just grow a bone back. I don't think modern medicine doesn't get that much better. Maybe.
We come back from ACL in 6 months, though.
Okay,
Yeah.
the 24 seconds needs to be slightly respected.
Okay.
sorry.
If LeBron came before MJ, there wouldn't be an argument about who is better. Mr. Deshaun,
He raised his
please
hand fast.
step forward.
That was instant.
We could say this very simply. This is a great question, by the way. We've already seen Jordan surpass the GOAT before him, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem, since high school, was ready to be the greatest player, just like we saw LeBron James. Kareem in his career, 6 NBA finals, right, where he won, okay, and he had made 10 appearances just like LeBron, except he happened to win more than LeBron did. Kareem, the all-time scoring leader, just like LeBron, correct? He also is top 10 in rebounds and might be up there in block shots as well. So we've already seen an all-around player with an unstoppable move and the persona bravado as I'm the greatest. And what did Jordan do? Surpassed him, right? He went 6-0. That's 100% in the finals. He also has the MVPs to match up with him and 6 finals MVP, which is something that Kareem did not do. So we have already seen this iteration of Jordan following up someone who is deemed as the greatest. So if you reverse the roles, there's still no debate. Jordan tops LeBron every time.
I appreciate your love for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Unfortunately, that is entirely irrelevant. This is not a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar versus LeBron James conversation. It is Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. If any of that mattered, you would have Kareem at 2 and LeBron at 3. Do you?
I have LeBron at 4.
All right, so clearly I'm speaking to somebody with an outrageous worldview on LeBron James. So that makes sense to me. That makes total sense now why you would bring that up. Unfortunately, I live in reality, and I do not believe Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a greater player than LeBron James. All those things you said make sense if you're simply looking at it that all Jordan had to do to pass up and be the GOAT is check boxes on paper. And that makes total sense. As a Jordan fan, you see number 6, number 0, he's the GOAT. LeBron, the argument for him has nothing to do with whatever Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did. He's a better player, that he's, the typical things, bigger, faster, stronger, but he's a better passer. Scoring, let's call it equal. If you want to give it to Jordan by an edge because of whatever reasons you have, sure. LeBron's a better interior scorer. If you want to give Jordan jump shooting, go ahead. Scoring is close enough. The passing is a big difference. I think LeBron's more versatile defensively. He's obviously the higher IQ player, lifts people up around him better, the better playmaker in that way. If you believe that he is truly the better player all around, which, many LeBron fans do. Obviously you don't. That would be enough that if he came first, you wouldn't see Jordan pass him up. So much of why Jordan is revered as his unquestioned GOAT is nostalgia, is he came first, is he was the first guard to come in and be a guy that showed you can, win a title around a perimeter player when previously it was all big men, like you said. If LeBron had did that first, that talking point would be irrelevant. He would be great, obviously, he'd be in the conversation, but none of that nostalgia would be attached to him, and he wouldn't have this reverence about him. He wouldn't be the same outside the court figure because we would have already had LeBron to deify in that way. So all of that type of bigger than basketball stuff that's attached to Jordan's name would be gone. There'd be very little argument, especially if LeBron presumably dominated that generation in the same way Jordan did, which I don't have any doubt he would. Do you?
Yeah, I do. And I think you made a couple of points that aren't based in fact and more based in opinion.
That's what all it is.
Well, no, there are some facts to back it up, some of which that I've named, right? You talked about being a more versatile defender. The Defensive Player of the Year awards don't say that.
You want to talk about the...
Well,
go ahead.
Let me finish.
Sorry.
Right? So that goes in favor of Jordan. You said we can call scoring equal. How? Michael Jordan once averaged 37 points per game. Has LeBron ever done that? No.
Are we going to go off of the best scores of all time or the ones who average the most per year?
Are you going to let me finish?
Well, you gave me
the argument.
You gave me a pause to respond.
Your argument was also no. That was just the little pregnant.
Okay,
pause.
being dramatic. Go ahead. My bad. Okay, I respect it.
LeBron's stats are more based in longevity, right? If you're talking about who's the greatest scorer, we're looking at points per game. We're looking at playoff performances. We're looking at regular season performances. You can't call that a wash, right? You can't call the defensive stats a wash either. And then you talked about uplifting players and making players better. Is that really true? I don't think so. Who did Jordan take to the finals? Scottie Pippen, Luke Longley, Ron Harper, a bunch of players that after they left him were not able to accomplish the same things. When LeBron James gets a player, they get worse. Remember that guy, Kevin Love? What was he doing in Minnesota? And then what happens when he joins LeBron in Cleveland? Kyrie Irving, same thing. Players don't get better. LeBron is able to dominate the game more and take them away from the stardom that they already had because he likes to acquire players and not make them homegrown.
Yeah, I hear you. And everything you said makes total sense if you stopped thinking about basketball in like 2010 and if you were still in like points per game equal good and we didn't realize what the value of efficiency, the value of playing in a certain system that gets touches to other people, not simply funneling into one person. Points per game hasn't been the metric for who makes simply the better scorer in like 15 years of discourse. We are so far past that. If you viewed points per game as the end-all be-all, great. Then he's going to be your GOAT regardless. But if you understand the value of efficiency, the value of getting a certain type of bucket that creates shots for others, and value of making the right play and not simply chasing a high points per game value, it's easy to understand why LeBron is equally as good of a scorer. In his prime, he shot nearly 80% at the rim, which is ridiculous. We don't have the tracking numbers for Jordan back then. It would have been good too. He would have been 68, 70, obviously. Part of that is era. He would have been lower because less spacing. So we could acknowledge that. He wouldn't have been a goddamn 80. I'll tell you that. He wouldn't have been the freight train in the open court that LeBron is. I feel very safe saying LeBron is the best open court scorer getting to the rim, probably of all time besides the bigs like Shaq. Is that fair?
Hold on, I'm going to have to go 24 seconds on this topic.
24 seconds, and I'll run this again. The question was, if LeBron came first, would there be an argument? I've already given you the factual data that prove we've seen a version of LeBron who was regarded as the uncontented GOAT, which was Kareem. Jordan surpassed him. And I gave you the career stats, which Kareem had more career stats at the time. I gave you the finals MVP. I gave you the finals win. Jordan came into the league and took that away from Kareem. He also took it away from Bird, and he also took it away from Magic.
If LeBron James walked through those doors on his Lakers teams, he would have accomplished just as much as Kareem while being the better player. It wouldn't be an argument. It's entirely irrelevant to focus on what happened to those guys, where we're talking about a hypothetical in which a better player was in those situations.
If you're an NBA player at the beginning of each season, what is your ultimate goal?
To win a championship. I'll go ahead and give you what you want to hear.
Thank you. Well, what other goal would there be?
Keep going.
Okay, anyway. So at the start of
Proceed.
each season, you want to win a championship, right?
Yes.
And if we think about some of the greatest winners of all time, right, would you say that winning a three-peat is difficult?
Very so.
So how many times has that happened in history? Do you know?
Few.
A few times, right? So some of the greatest players in history, some of the greatest winners in history have only won one championship, maybe won two in a row, maybe won a few, but they were like sporadic throughout their career. It's rare that you see a team or a player accomplish a three-peat, right? Tim Duncan, he won it, I think, like every other year. He has like 5 of them, but he never did it twice in a row.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant did it 3 times in a row, and it took him and Shaq to do it, right? He did a three-peat, right? I think those 60 Celtics with Cousy and them, they did it like 100 times in a row, whatever it was. I'm just saying, but that was a different era. My point is, in the modern era of basketball, to win 3 times in a row is damn near impossible. Nobody can do it. Those Warriors in the 2015 era to 2020, They won it a bunch of times, but they also couldn't do it 3 times in a row. LeBron James, 2012 and 2013, couldn't do it a 3rd time in a row. Ended up losing to those same Spurs. My point is that a three-peat is hard to come by, and if championships is how we measure greatness in the NBA, how could we say that anyone other than the only man to do it twice in one career is any worse than anybody else to ever play the game?
Yeah.
If the ultimate goal is NBA championships, LeBron James, I'm sure, is on record saying that that's what the ultimate goal for any NBA player would be. How do we pick anyone other than the only man who was able to do a three-peat, which is probably the hardest thing to do in basketball, twice? After taking a year off to play baseball, smoke cigars, and gamble.
Lots to unpack there.
Unpack it.
I gotta remember all the crazy shit you just said.
All facts. Like the good brother Deshaun.
First of all, all of that would be great and all that'd be dandy if the Basketball Hall of Fame was the Basketball Hall of Fame of three-peats. If that was the only thing we measured by, and if the top players of all times are only the ones who got three-peats, then we'd have no conversations. It would be there's like 3 players we're talking about in NBA history. But that's not the case. And yes, the way you measure success is winning championships as a team. That is so contextual. I understand that we treat Michael Jordan like a god who is a one-man army against the world. He's not. It's a 12-man roster, 15 back then. It's so much contextually needed to talk about team versus team that I think that's the general error of way we talk about basketball in general is saying we measure success via championships. That's part of it, but it's part of a larger whole to understand a player, his impact, his skills, weighing all that individually. So I don't think championships are the end-all be-all. You obviously need, a requisite amount of success to show that your talent can, translate in the playoffs. I don't think necessarily hitting a certain number is the only way to talk about that. And I certainly don't think three-peats is the only way that you can justify that. It's very impressive, not take it away. Yeah. But if three-peats were just the measure, then you would have Bill Russell at 2. I don't believe you have Bill Russell at 2.
No, because there's obviously a lot more to consider.
Exactly.
For sure, right?
A whole
but when
lot.
it comes down to it, right? When you're looking at Jordan and LeBron and they're like kind of neck and neck in pretty much every category except winning, which is what the ultimate goal of an NBA player is, to win. And if you and I'm looking at 2 guys, one who's won more than the other, with pretty much the same stats. And yeah, LeBron's playing 22 years. Michael Jordan played 14 or 15. There's like going to be some discrepancies there. But the fact of the matter is that he played 6 years less and has more accolades, relatively the same amount of stats. I just think if we're going to look at 2 players who are so close, which is why we're having this debate, why not let it come down to, at the end of the day, who was holding the trophy at the end of the season? Michael Jordan did it 6 times in 6 tries.
Yeah, you mentioned it's
24
hard.
seconds.
God, Jesus. You mentioned that it's hard to win in the modern NBA, make three-peats. That is true. You made it sound like the modern NBA is the same as when Michael Jordan was, like the modern NBA started in 1990. It didn't.
I think it did.
It just straight up not. We're in such a different world than we were in the 90s. Back then, there was way less player movement. It was way easier to make your team and keep them together. We know he had the best team. He's part of that, but he had an amazing supporting cast. The reason LeBron has to cycle through teammates, it's hard to build a good team today when you're not a homegrown, draft all your stars type of team. You can't. Elongated success is harder.
Well, I'm just going to say this. LeBron James, he spent most of the 80s getting his ass whooped by Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, all these guys. Had every opportunity in the world to leave Chicago and join any of those teams to make sure that he had better players around him. But he stuck it out in Chicago. They developed the team. They put players around him that they can win. And then he won 6 in a row outside of his little gambling era. But then, I say that to say, with LeBron at the buzzer, he's soft.
His ass was under contract. He did not have every opportunity.
He almost went to the Knicks. I do. Thank you for your service. Okay, this next topic is controversial. LeBron James is one of the clutchest players of all time.
We meet again.
Hello. Welcome back.
Clutch what? Not clutch at the free throw line. Maybe he has some clutch performances, but let's bring up the biggest moments of LeBron James' career, and let's continue to talk about winning like my brother Nelson did. Miami Heat, biggest shot of the series that got them to Game 7, Jesus Shuttlesworth. Game 7 against Warriors, and my guy, Stephen Curry, that's ingrained in my memory, Kyrie Irving. And who passed him the ball? LeBron, because it wasn't his moment. Whenever it's time and it really counts and it comes down to it, he's passing the ball because he shies away from the last shot. Please don't go to some regular season game where no one is watching. Let's talk about the biggest moments when being clutch matters.
Let's make
he
80%
doesn't
of the
have
game
the ball in
irrelevant.
his hand.
Okay.
Well, what matters the most?
Keep on. Sorry. Keep on.
The last shot or the ones that happened before? I placed the value on a shot that got them to win. Talk to me.
Again, similar to last time we argued, that would be real great if we stopped thinking about basketball 15 years ago. How do you get to the last shot? How do you keep these games competitive? Everything leads up to it. And real quick, did that question say one of the most clutch players or one of the most clutch last shot shooters?
I would say this is about being clutch at the end. That's how
Yeah.
clutch is mostly defined. No one's really talking
Yeah.
about it before in the first, second, and third quarter.
Oh, I'm not talking about
There is
it
a
either.
clutch time stat too. I think it's the final 5 minutes of
It
the
is.
fourth
So
quarter.
let's define
It
it by
is.
that then.
Okay, yeah, the
All
clutch
right.
player.
Yeah.
What is involved in offense? Passing and shooting, setting up others for good shots and shooting the shot yourself. So I'm not going to let you pretend that playmaking is irrelevant and that setting up open shooters is not good. It is. LeBron has taken his fair share of difficult, tough shots at the end, does too. I think the stat is he's like 7 for 12 on these last second shots in playoffs, which, cool, he can do that too. If you want to say other guys did it more often than him or in flashier ways that you remember more because it was in a big game on national TV and what you were watching, great. I, for one, have the privilege of having the internet. And I know that not everything that I didn't see, some of it still happened, even though I didn't see it. And he has good clutch numbers. So I won't pretend that's not the case. But also the harping on the fact that he passes the ball to people as if it's a negative is ridiculous. The smartest players know the smartest shots aren't always contested step-back shots because you want to be the one to take it. If you have a 40% corner three-point shooter, you give him the ball. And you said maybe he has some clutch performances in the beginning to downplay it. Yeah, maybe he has a lot of them. Maybe he averages 34 points per game, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists in closeout games. Maybe not. I don't know. But I think yes. So I'm not going to pretend that's just a throwaway and you could just like toss it aside and be like, what about free throws? Because the good stuff actually matters, not just the bad stuff.
So you talked about playmaking, but let's talk about those plays because you said you have the internet. Me too. So we can easily go and look at these moments. He didn't pass Ray the ball. That was a tip out. So shout out to Chris Bosh.
Good for
LeBron was nowhere near that play. He actually missed a shot before it. Then we could go to him setting up Kyrie Irving. He didn't play make. He just gave him the ball and shot away. You remember the Olympics?
I do.
Who he gave the ball to?
Steph Curry.
And you saw what Steph did?
He's bad.
Hit a clutch 3. That won them the gold medal, and he was robbed of that Olympic MVP too. Don't even get me started there. So in the biggest moments of LeBron's career, on the international stage or on the NBA stage, it is not him making the play, and it is not him making a shot. He has to rely on other people, and that's
Sure.
okay.
If we pretend his career is wrapped up into 2 plays, then you got it.
3 plays.
Oh, 3. Sorry. There we go. Especially the one that didn't happen in the NBA, too. Got to count that one. The one that's not relevant.
It is a global game, and the United States needed that victory.
There we
and,
go.
And what would be remembered if they finished in 2nd place or 3rd place, right? If they got that silver medal, that would be a bigger stain on his career than any of his other losses. So don't count out the Olympics. It only happens once every 4 years.
Okay, there you go. You can have your Olympics talk in which LeBron won, so I'm glad that
Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
All right, let's get factual because you can't dispute facts,
I
right?
cannot.
All right. So
Do
we're
you have
gonna-
the facts written down?
Oh, maybe just little pointers. But here's
Why
the
can't I
thing.
have PEDs? This is crazy. I didn't know we could have notes.
I just wanted to get specific because I know like Bronzexual is really just kind of
Yeah, bad memory. Yeah, you remind me.
And so we're gonna go over LeBron's 4 and 6 records finals. Let's talk about him in the last 24 seconds. The actual stats.
The
of
last
those-
24 seconds
Yes.
of the game?
Oh yeah.
24 seconds is so arbitrary. But go ahead. Tell me about the last 24 seconds.
All right. Final 4, 24
Very
seconds.
random number.
Ready?
Yep.
0 and 7.
In 24 seconds.
And in the finals, final 10 seconds, 0 and 5. Final 5 seconds, 0 and 4. A buzzer beater, which he only had 1, so his games aren't even close. 0 and 1. A clutch player finishes those plays. You give Michael Jordan the ball, he finishes the play. You give LeBron the ball, he'll give it to someone else. When you're a clutch player, you don't do that. Not to mention multiple polls done by The Athletic. No one's
The Athletic?
No one's ever voted. His peers have never voted for him to be a top 5 clutch player in the NBA. How are you going to call him a clutch player if his peers don't even think so?
When did those athletic polls start?
2-3 years ago.
How old was LeBron 2-3 years ago?
I think that
Was he in his
it
prime?
comes from everyone.
Was he in his prime?
They put his teammates.
Was he in his prime? I don't believe so.
He just won a championship like 3 years ago.
That was the Mickey-
Time's flying. That's like 5 seasons ago now. It's 4.
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, irrelevant. Listen, 24 seconds is a lovely number when you're looking to find the exact number you needed to find no shots. If you expand to what clutch time actually is, the last 5 minutes when you're leading up to wins, obviously those numbers are going to be better. So, shout out finding the perfect number for the stat.
Could you give me a buzzer beater or a clutch shot that he has hit?
Again, the fact that we're saying clutch shots, like we have to have one single shot, isn't what clutch actually is. I can give you plenty of games in which he came up clutch in an elimination game, in which he had fourth quarter performances and went crazy. Obviously, Game 6 versus Boston is the one everyone talks about, where he came out and simply destroyed them. Obviously, 2016 Game 7 finals, defensively and offensively, 2-way performance. trying to narrow it down to one shot in the last 10 seconds is just pushing it into a direction that isn't actually, showing what clutch is in basketball.
See, that's the thing with LeBron. We always redefine that line of clutch.
You picked the line.
We had to redefine it for him because he doesn't meet the overall standard of Michael Jordan. So
if you can pick a line, I can pick a line. So we can just go back and forth picking standards.
Do you think fans are cherry picking or haters are cherry picking stats right now?
That's what they got to do. I mean, I respect the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think people.
I respect a good hater at heart.
People do forget that a block in the clutch is still a clutch play.
Okay, before I start, I just want to say it's getting really hot in here.
Another outfit change.
It's so hot. You guys gotta put up the AC a little bit, So all these people are talking and all this stuff. I want to let you talk a little bit. What's your definition of clutch?
Clutch is making the right plays, leading to efficient offense when it matters most. When the game is on the line, making the plays that'll decide you get a victory.
So, my definition of clutch is being the best in the brightest moments. You think that's fair?
I think that's I think I would ask more specificity on when the brightest moments are, but that's about the same
I would
thing.
say in the playoffs, finals, his 4-6 record.
Okay.
So, what about the Dallas Mavericks? What do you think about that series?
Terrible. That's the biggest blight on his career.
Yeah.
And you got that. I think that's an actual terrible mark, and I won't pretend it's not. I just wouldn't pretend it's the end-all be-all. I wouldn't let somebody's career of any sort, any player, be defined by one bad week.
So you would say he wasn't clutch in that series?
God, no. No.
So he's not clutch then?
If you only were alive for 2011, then sure.
Okay, so
But I had the privilege of continuing to live after that, so I
let's also talk about how he almost lost a rookie Jason Tatum.
How he
a
almost
sophomore.
lost.
Yeah, almost lost.
But he didn't.
Game 7, though.
But he won the
To
game.
a rookie Jason Tatum who averaged 14 points a game.
I thought the game was about to win. He won the game.
Yeah, against a rookie Jason Tatum. Was that impressive?
But did he win?
He did win, but
All that matters is winning, am I right?
yeah.
Y'all are
Next.
dangerously close to
Okay,
this
let's
24
also talk
o'clock.
about the Kyrie
That
shot.
nonsense.
A game that he won?
Let's talk about the Kyrie shot.
The game that he won?
No, Kyrie won that game. Let's talk about Ray Allen. He won that game. So that's
1v12?
So that's 2 rings right there.
Kyrie's the GOAT
If
then.
they didn't make those shots, he would have 2 rings.
If
We wouldn't be here right now if Ray Allen and Kyrie Irving didn't make
If
those
Kyrie
shots.
can beat the Golden State Warriors by himself, put him in the Hall of Fame today. You got it.
Oh, he's
the
definitely going to the Hall of
GOAT.
Fame. Come on now,
He's the
Kyrie
GOAT,
Irving.
apparently.
Okay, let's talk about so he would have 2 rings without 2 shots. Let's also talk about Kyle Kuzma, how we passed him the ball during the bubble to make that.
Let's talk
game-winning
about
shot.
Kyle Kuzma as a sentence I did not expect to hear today. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell me more about it.
But Kyle Kuzma made the last shot. I think it was in the bubble of playoffs. He made
Good
the
for
last
him.
shot.
Can you look me in the eye and tell me Kyle Kuzma is the reason they won the 2020 championship?
Kyle Kuzma is the reason why they
You're
won the
smiling your
2020
ass off.
championship.
Look at you grinning. Look at you grinning.
Yeah, so Michael Jordan's way more clutch. Let's talk about the Jazz. Okay, the timer's up. Never mind. But yeah, Michael Jordan's more clutch.
All right. He was
Lovely.
He was doing well. The Kyle Kuzma threw me for a loop. Everything was going well.
All right, I'm a hater, but I wanted to show you some love. Hopefully, I could change your opinion. So I got you a gift.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
Bribery?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
It's
Damn, I
LeBron.
hate this gift.
But also check the back. Check the back. It's a very important stat. 4 and 6.
I hate this gift even more.
Yeah. I would define a clutch player as the most important series than playing good. Somehow, some way, Jordan went 6-0. Surprisingly, LeBron has had 6 losses in the finals and only 4 wins.
Do you find it to be more impressive to lose in the first round or the second round or the third round than to lose in the finals?
Again, I thought we were talking about clutch player. You just said before that we
Do
don't
you
define
find
clutch
it
player.
more impressive to lose early in the playoffs or later?
I thought we were talking about clutch players, so let's stick to the top.
So you don't have an answer.
Not when it comes to what we were talking about. Do you want to talk about clutch players or something irrelevant?
Would you like me to get to my point?
You could try if it has to do with the prompt.
Would you find it more impressive to lose in the first round? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. Would you find it more impressive to go into a game series against the Pistons in Game 5 and shoot 8 shots and get shut down? Is that clutch?
No. I mean,
No,
we say
everybody
the same
has.
thing.
I say to say, everybody has their lowlights. You can pick and choose which ones you want to talk about. If you find it less impressive because LeBron's lowlights came in the finals, whereas Jordan's came in the first or second round, and you want to say you should never lose on the brightest stage, well, I think you should get to the brightest stage. And how about that? Like, you can pick and choose how much you want to decide somebody's lowlights are worse. In reality, everybody has them. You're not defined by them unless you're Joel Embiid. These guys both have highs, lows. I won't pretend that his lows are worse because he happened to get further with less.
I'm not going to go and just start glorifying someone that lost in the finals. I define a clutch player as when it comes down to the final series. Also, not to mention, LeBron has to go jump from team to team. He's a glorified Patrick McCaw. Jordan never left any team. Whatever team he went to, he stuck it out and he won multiple championships, 6 championships. LeBron goes to a team, strips every asset away, and still doesn't win in the finals. I would hope if he created his own team that he'd be able to make it to the finals.
Yeah, well, not everybody has the privilege of being drafted to a competent organization that drafts a Scottie Pippen, goes and gets a Dennis Rodman, and makes it a legit
You build. People want to play with Jordan.
Do you think LeBron stayed for 2 years then left? No, he gave the Cleveland Cavaliers a chance. They were incompetent.
So what happened in Miami?
He won 2 championships in Miami. What
Why
do
did
you
he
mean?
leave Miami?
Because Dwayne Wade's knees fell apart. And
Okay, so exactly. He left because he wanted a better team. He's just going to jump every time. He stripped the Lakers of every single asset. And guess what? He's just going to leave again because that's all he does.
I won't pretend it's noble to lose amongst poverty and play next to a bunch of crappy players. I won't pretend that gives him points because he's nice and brave about toughing it out. I don't really care.
All right, so we could just jump from team to team. I'll win every
I'm
LA
keeping
Fitness
this. Don't
team.
pretend I
No, it's for the haters. It's for the haters, not for you. Right. He does destroy every team, but that sacrifice is a title. So,
If I could win 2 championships and be mid for 5 years after, I'm taking that every year.
next topic. LeBron James is responsible for the super team. Seems like a no-brainer to me.
Let's go. Yeah. Back to back.
How is he not? I mean, we just spoke about it before.
Want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'd love for you to.
Well, we pretend the Celtics didn't make a super team 2 years before he did. That's one reason. The real reason for the super team is because modern free agency promotes player movement. There's more talent today. You have to compile talent to win. Back in the day, there was obviously less talent, like I said, and the way the rules are made, you didn't often see stars come together like that. In the modern NBA, when it's harder and harder to win, it simply became a necessity. Just because he was on the front lines of that and was the second team to do it in this era doesn't mean he created it. He's not a GM, as most people want to say he is. He wasn't the GM of the Miami Heat, I'll tell you that for sure. You think Pat Riley was listening to him calling shots? No.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I
that's
think
not
so.
reality. But either way, it's just a symptom of the modern NBA and the new rules that were created and the new just reality of how you win a game. And he wasn't the first, like I said. The Celtics, the Lakers got 2 Hall of Famers at the peak of their prime. Teams had, again, not the peak of their prime, the peak of the Lakers' prime. Those Hall of Famers were washed, obviously. But, it wasn't the first time we've seen lots of star names get put together.
You're talking about general managers making trades to go create teams. Kevin Garnett was traded to the Celtics. I think they just came together naturally. LeBron talks about recruiting players openly. He created the first ever super team, and what happened right after? Kevin Durant followed in suit. There's a lot of other superstars that are just following in suit for what LeBron started.
So the Celtics aren't a super team because they traded for Kevin Garnett and didn't sign him?
I don't know if they recruited players. LeBron himself said that he recruited Chris Bosh, and
What do
he
you mean
went
that you don't know if
and
they
he spoke to
recruited
Dwayne
players?
Wade. He said that he spoke to Dwayne Wade, and they all were like, "Let's go to Miami."
As free agents should. That has little bearing on if the Celtics were a super team or not. Just because that super team was traded for rather than signed
Also, what
is
about
entirely
multiple
irrelevant.
super teams?
What about it?
The Lakers, he did the same thing multiple times. It's not a coincidence that he's the first person to start.
No one's
it.
calling the Lakers
Are
a
you
super
telling
team.
me? Are you telling me that Paul Pierce called up Kevin Garnett and Rondo, and they're like, "Well, let's all go to Boston and create a super team over there"? Isn't that the definition of
I
a
don't have
super
their
team?
phone logs, but I have
mean,
a
LeBron
feeling
said
that Paul
himself
Pierce
that
was
it's
involved
correct.
in recruiting Kevin Garnett. Yes, that's not a novel idea.
I don't think so. I think they just traded a bunch of assets.
LeBron invented communication? I don't think so.
I don't think he
I
invented
think players talked
communication.
before that.
I don't know if he invented it. I think LeBron perfected it.
Probably.
Perfected it.
He's a hell of a
Draymond
recruiter.
Green was crying in the parking lot calling up Kevin Durant.
Not only is LeBron James responsible for the super team, he is responsible for the detriment of the NBA when we talk about player mobility, right? You can talk about the Celtics and the Lakers, all of that. That stuff happened because GMs were bad at their job. What LeBron did
Sounds like a good move to me.
Influenced everybody. He allowed Kevin Durant to feel free enough to be like, yeah, let me go to the Warriors. Not only does LeBron think of himself as the GOAT, he thinks of himself as a leader amongst men. He thinks of himself as the big dog in the NBA.
king.
Exactly. The chosen one, right? He chose to go to Miami and show everybody, if I can do it, so can you. And now we have guys like Paul George thinking that he can jump from team to team and make super teams. LeBron James is making Paul George feel like he can do that. Every player in the league thinks that they can do it, and it all stems from LeBron James choosing to call Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and be like, you know what? Let's go ahead. Let's do this. I don't want to stay here. I don't want to build, right? I don't want to do that. I want to go from team to team, and as soon as I see that my buddy's knees are gone, I'm leaving you high and dry.
Few things. What I'm sensing is you just do not respect Paul George or Kevin Durant, and you wanted a mic to get that shit off your chest. And I respect it. Go ahead. Let us know. Fair.
It's not about them, but you know.
Yeah, it is.
You know
okay.
me. You know me.
Secondly, if you're telling me that LeBron's biggest influence on this world is that he made teams realize that they can make dope-ass teams and be really good at basketball, am I supposed to take that as a negative? Oh, fucking no. Boo-hoo. I think I'll live. And, yeah, I just don't think that that's a negative. And there's one more thing you said that I wanted to respond to that was hilarious. Oh, you said he doesn't want to stay and build with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Are you under the impression that we need to be nicer to billionaires? Because Dan Gilbert tried. He gave him time, and eventually Dan Gilbert and his front office failed miserably, and he said, "I'd show you no loyalty. I'm going to go to a place where my career will be prioritized and handled the right way." I'm personally not of the opinion that we need to be nicer to those guys. I think if they're incompetent and do a bad job at the teams they run, these players should say, "Go fuck yourself. I'm going to go build a good team."
Two things. One.
No. Should we be nicer to billionaires?
No.
Should we be nicer to billionaires?
Two things. I don't defend Dan Gilbert for anything.
Oh.
And then two, just say you hate competition. Just say you hate that, right? The basis of the NBA, the NBA was ruined for years because we knew coming into the season the Warriors were going to win. LeBron doesn't want that setup. He built super teams.
The clock rang. I'm not hearing it.
He gets his last sentence off. That's a little immoral.
Exactly.
It's unethical. He gets his last sentence off.
Exactly.
I don't have to hear it.
All right, fair enough. Sure, that's also fair.
Instead of inventing a super team, LeBron productized a super team. Do you remember the decision?
I do.
Do you remember that time?
I do.
Do you remember when he embarrassed himself on national television
Not
in
one,
front
not
of
two,
a
not
nice
three.
group of children at the Greenwich YMCA?
I do remember that.
Do you remember that?
I remember when you brought a lot of money to that organization too that night.
Did he?
I did.
That's interesting. Were any of them Knicks fans in the crowd? Do you think he broke any of their hearts? Do you think he had any consideration for who was sitting in the crowd that night?
No, I think he's ruthless.
I think he is too. Great, you're making my point.
Yeah.
So I think he's about himself, and he needs people around him to make him better and kind of elevate him. And so if you saw, and I'm hoping they're showing right now, the presentation that they had after the decision when they decided to become a super team, you remember that? That was pretty embarrassing, right?
Bit cringe. I think I'll give you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so I would
Didn't
say,
age well.
in addition to drawing like the media attention to himself and ruining those little kids' lives, right? He also decided to put himself on an own pedestal and present himself to the world, I would say. And so I don't think you can argue that he didn't not only just productize and make this thing a thing, but he also kind of put himself completely out there on the global stage.
He might have made bad marketing a thing. He might have ruined the perception of the star and how they market themselves and build their brand. You can have it. Nothing to do with the super team. So I respect the opinion. And if we're going to go with he hates Knicks children, specifically Knicks fans' children, I think we should all hate more Knicks fans' children. I think we should make this like a common theme that we find the closest Knicks fan child and we tell them we hate them.
Let's get up.
And
Let's
we
get
tell
up.
them that their sports fandom is worthless in this world. I think
Okay.
we need to
Look.
be meaner to kids.
I'm happy to start the fire. Let's go.
Okay, good. So this is a great segment into what I really didn't like about the whole LeBron situation. I mean, if you're going to create a whole presentation about saying, not 2, not 3, not 4, and we're going to get all the way up to, I think it was maybe 8, 7 or 8, and just to come up empty-handed after that is pretty embarrassing to me. And in my opinion, if you're going to go up there and you're going to say those numbers, you better damn well go up there and complete and get to whatever number you thought you were going to get to. I have a lot of respect for people or players that will take a chance and either stay on a team and try and win with that team or potentially go to a different team that is not stacked up or has all this superstar talent. And if they go there and then win with that team. So a lot of the respect that I've had for LeBron definitely did come with the Cavaliers win. But again, that came with now restacking the roster. In a situation for that decision, for that night when he went on camera, it was like, let's have a decision. It was a whole premiere. I mean, that's kind of just really ridiculous. My GOAT Jordan would probably never do that. And as a matter of fact, if he went up there and said he was going to win 8 times, he damn well was winning 8 times. And I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. I think the biggest difference is that people feared Michael Jordan rather than they just kind of respect LeBron. And to make a spectacle like that when you go up there, and again, just kind of brag that you automatically, before you even play a game, think that you guys are the best team, you're going to win, 5, 6 straight, I think is just unfair and it's not good for the whole league in general. And just to piggyback off of that, I think that it made more players feel like they can do that. And the biggest example is KD losing 3-1 and then going and joining the Warriors. The whole can't beat him, join him thing, I feel like that really all stemmed from the fact that LeBron stacked up the team, thought that he could be unbeatable or they would be unbeatable. So that allowed other players to think that it's acceptable to kind of go there and do that.
There's no nobility in taking the toughest route and losing. It's just not anything that anybody should strive for. You can't, on one hand, tell me winning is everything. We should do whatever we can to win, and then be like, oh no, but make it harder. Like, pick a side. Should they do everything to win, or should he be noble and be so brave about staying with a terrible team? Because if you want to prioritize winning and want him to be a winning player and all this stuff, him and Mo Williams were not walking through those doors with rings. It wasn't going to happen. He gave them plenty of time. He stayed there for 7 years, gave them plenty of chances to build a contender, and what's the best they did? Bring in a washed-up Shaq. It wasn't working. you would have had way more criticism of him if he stayed there and just lost over and over again. You wouldn't have been like, oh, he's so brave. He's so for Cleveland. Good for him. You would have been like, this guy sucks. He's never going to win a championship. He has nothing on Jordan. And you said he did the whole spectacle thing, not 1, not 2, not 3. Again, I'm not up here saying that he is the most humble NBA player of all time. Humility is not a measure of success for me right now. I don't care.
Yeah, but Jordan was way more humble than LeBron
That is absolutely asinine. Jordan is the least humble person I've ever
I
seen.
should say, okay, time out. Sorry. Let me just retract. What I mean by that is he's obviously is confident in his abilities, which can still make you humble. You don't have to be arrogant and also be confident at the same time.
The thing is, both these guys are the most arrogant people in the world. So we'll call that a draw.
I would say that Michael Jordan is. I would say Michael Jordan is just more confident in his abilities and he knows what he's going to do. LeBron, I think, could be more considered arrogant.
I would say he's a well-documented asshole, and I respect him for it.
Next topic. LeBron's 2020 Lakers championship should have an asterisk.
Oh, brother.
Let's go. He's back.
The Miami Heat in 2020 is the worst finals team of all time. What do you say about that?
I definitely think they were trash compared to most finals teams. So
Definitely trash.
I wouldn't say
Like,
the worst of all
horrible.
time because there's a lot of years out there, so I wouldn't make that claim, but they weren't particularly strong.
So they had Jimmy Butler, who was what, a top 20 player, I would say, at the time?
No, let's give him credit. He was playing
Come
like
on,
a top 10
20.
player.
He can't really score. I mean, he scored in the playoffs. He could defend a little bit. He can't really do anything much. Bam Adebayo, okay, he's a top 10 center, and out of that, was Tyler Hero even playing too?
He was. That was like his strongest stretch of his career.
A top 100 player. Okay, so you have Anthony Davis, who's a top 10 player at the time. LeBron James, who was I'll say a top 5 player at the time, or you could say 1, 2, whatever.
Yeah, he's definitely top 5. Yeah.
Versing a top 20 player, a top 100 player, and a top 50 player. Yeah. So that was that championship should not count at all.
So because the competition's weak,
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think this is a door you want to open.
Jordan had a verse.
I'll say that.
John Stockton, the top 5 point guard of all time. Karl Malone, the top 5 power forward of all time. He had a verse. Gary Payton, probably one of the best guard defenders ever. Sean Kemp,
who didn't guard Jordan.
He had a verse. These really good teams, and then he versed Jimmy Butler, who's trash. I'm actually a bigger Jimmy Butler hater than freaking LeBron.
That's apparent. That's apparent.
Jimmy Butler is annoying. His team sucks. He's never gonna win anything.
Hey, you just have to get off your chest and go for it.
I'm not gonna lie. So LeBron had Anthony Davis, top 10. LeBron James, top 5 player.
Yeah.
How is that not an easy ring? How does that ring even count?
If your biggest point is that the 2020 ring deserves an asterisk because the championship was weak, because the team he played is
the
weak.
finals team was weak.
We can do this with so many people. This is not a door
Not
Jordan
really.
fans should want to go down.
I want you to name one. I want you to name another team.
Other teams who had weak finals appearances?
Yeah, definitely.
There's so many.
The
Oh,
2007
he can't name one,
Spurs.
though. He can't
The Spurs beat the
specific
shitty
one.
Cavaliers.
Yeah, the Spurs beat the shitty Cavaliers. The Nuggets beat the Heat too. I guess we're gonna say Jokic's ring doesn't count.
The Nuggets suck.
No,
The-
the Nuggets beat the
Were
Heat.
they a bad finals team?
Who was the shitty Cavaliers' best player? No, I'm saying.
No, but this is me. I'm not involved. I'm not involved. I mean, that was an absolutely ridiculous stance.
All right, cool. Every championship that's ever been won has been impressive.
Correct.
Right?
Some
Including the bubble, right? But the bubble was probably, to me, the least impressive out of every championship that's ever been won. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, and I've seen NBA players come on podcasts and talk about how the bubble was probably the hardest championship.
Yeah.
Because all the environment that they were in or whatever. That sounds like some rich people like champagne problem shit. You know what I mean? They were in a Disney hotel and maybe didn't have the best meals or maybe didn't have this, that, or whatever. They were all chilling. They didn't have nothing to worry about outside of going to practice and playing PS5, Xbox in their room. That's it. That's all they had to do. They were all able to just lock in on basketball, which should make their job really, really easy. Now, because a lot of these guys are not as focused as a seasoned guy like LeBron James, these guys were, while it might have been the ideal scenario for LeBron James to be able to lock in, a lot of these guys didn't have that. They were all worried about, Lou Will was out getting wings and women, you know what I mean, in Atlanta during the bubble. And then not to mention, everybody else across the league, if that's just one example, everybody else was in there not unfocused, if we're being real, because it was that much harder to be able to lock in on what really mattered, which is basketball. LeBron James had the opportunity to be able to lock in the way that he did because he is LeBron James. He's able to do that, but nobody else was able to do that, so he had a cakewalk to the finals. And getting there and going up against a lowly team like Jimmy Butler, who we hate. No, I'm just kidding. Nah, but being able and going up against them, it was by far the least impressive NBA title.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get there, but once he was there, bro, it was a layup. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear NBA players complain about like the conditions that they had to play in and blah 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 blah. Yo, there are real people out there who went through a lot worse. You guys were playing basketball in Disney World. Cut it out.
Yeah, I mean, you at the end you said LeBron was able to deal with that because he's LeBron and other people aren't like that.
Yeah.
You brush that aside like it's just like, yeah, he's LeBron, like it's not impressive.
Well, yeah, I mean,
He's him.
He was
He's
36 when this happened.
There's some old motherfuckers on all those teams who collapsed.
Yeah, I know, but they're not the star player. LeBron James was able to set the tone for his team, which I feel like I'm giving him credit for, and like I know
You are.
No, and that's okay though. That's
That's
okay.
my point.
No, that's okay. I'm giving him credit for that, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like it was like the most impressive thing that he's ever done.
I didn't say it was 2016, but he's built for tough environments, and he brought that to his team.
But that's the thing. That tough environment that you're talking about, like, oh, imagine locking in a fucking gym, going head to head with somebody. Yeah, bro, it's called practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone locks in the gym. We was watching Lil Wayne taking phantom puffs on the blunt from his crib. Nobody was in there watching the game. They were playing practice with one
Are you
another.
familiar with my sweet prince, Dom Toretto?
Of course.
Family is everything.
Yeah.
They couldn't see their family. Are you going to look me in the eye? Are you going to look in this camera? And are you going to tell the people that LeBron James' family doesn't matter?
LeBron James' family does matter. Happy birthday, Zuri. But what I will
Does
say,
Kawhi Leonard's family matter?
I don't know. He needs to get on the court. But last thing I'm gonna say is like you are lying to everyone in this room if you think that LeBron James' accommodations were the same as everybody else. Miss me with that shit. Yeah.
His hotel was very nice.
Okay, so I don't want to talk about mental fortitude, toughness, or family. I just want to talk about the point of an asterisk. Usually in sports, that's indicative of something being out of the norm. Were there 82 regular season games played that season?
There was not.
Was every team invited to the bubble?
Nope.
Okay.
The ones who didn't qualify, obviously. Like, it was based on merit, not randomness, but keep going.
Exactly, right? So we can already establish, and we both agree, that this season was out of the norm for the entire NBA and it's
For sure.
and over
For
the
the
course
world.
of its history.
Yeah.
Therefore, there must be an asterisk, right? The bubble was not a normal NBA regular season. They didn't play the same amount of games. They didn't play every team twice. They didn't play the teams in their conference or division the amount of times they were supposed to either. Therefore, the road that he used to get to the finals was out of the norm. Therefore, you have to have an asterisk so that people who view this 10, 20, 30 years from now are aware of the conditions that he faced, because they weren't the same that every other team had to face in all the other years.
Yeah, and if you want to argue for the Webster's Dictionary definition of an asterisk, then go for it. You're right. It is inherently different by all standards of the world at the time. What we're arguing for in practicality, what people besides you mean when they say an asterisk, they mean it's less impressive. They mean it's lesser than. They mean it's, compared to any Jordan championship, it's worse. And that's the part where it becomes, who's to say what's harder and what's weaker and what's harder about it and what's easier about it? I do not have a problem with you saying it's different. That's undeniable. But when we get to the point of people downplaying it and saying it's not impressive because there was no parade and because they were at home watching and all this stuff, then I'm like, what are we talking about?
So therefore, in my argument, say it again, I'm right.
Yeah, you're right.
That's it. That's
There
all I
you go.
needed. All right.
You're right in a way that helps my side.
LeBron having a losing record in the finals does not affect his legacy.
Well, I already told you this once. I'll do it again, right? If those two do not hit those 3-point shots, LeBron walks away with 2 rings. He doesn't go to the Game 7 against the Spurs, and then the Warriors probably will make a play and they end up winning, right? I think that's very clear. LeBron James owes his career and his standing as one of the greatest players of all time to those two gentlemen. If they weren't as clutch as they were, and if they weren't ready to take those shots, he doesn't finish the same way, and I don't think he'll be wearing that Lakers jersey.
Yeah. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. We can do this with a lot of things. If the Bulls didn't select Scottie Pippen and they select the next pick, who knows when his championship window opens? If the Pistons never age out of the championship window, who knows when his championship starts? We can do this with so many things. Neither here nor there. The shots went in. So many plays led up to that point where LeBron James put them in the position to decide the game. You have to empower your teammates. You have to play a team game and hope that the team around you is good enough to match your level. And on that day, they were good. I will not downplay the contributions of Kyrie Irving, downplay the contributions of Ray Allen, because they don't take away from LeBron James. Those games do not come down to one play. Like I said earlier, if Kyrie Irving was good enough to beat the Golden State Warriors by himself and decide the game by himself, make him the GOAT today, because that's the greatest team of all time that he single-handedly took down, apparently.
It wasn't just Kyrie, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
It was
It's a team
also
game.
the NBA commissioner. he helped a bit.
There we go.
But those two
Draymond Green being a moron. Let's go.
Hey, listen, man. Dre makes some mistakes, but we're going to forgive him, right?
Okay.
He likes to punch and he likes to kick. Everybody has problems. But we got to keep it real. You have to be authentic, right?
Yeah.
I know you're a super fan, and I'm a hater. I'm not a super hater, but I can hate when it's time. You know that if those two shots don't go in, LeBron James, the discourse that we're having is completely different. And it's not really shoulda, coulda, woulda. We literally watched it. And
Yeah, we watched it.
the next morning on every single debate show, what clip was being shown? We did see the block, but the most important clip of the night is the shot, right? Yeah,
We did see the block.
We did see the block,
You like to
but-
slide things in like they're irrelevant. The block is just as iconic.
I didn't call it if it was irrelevant, I wouldn't have mentioned it.
Okay, fair
but
enough,
I
fair
did.
enough.
It was important. But
Equally
the
so.
block didn't win the game. The shot wins the game. Chris Bosh chipping the ball out to Ray Allen, that's the play that won the game. So he owes a lot to a lot of people, right? When it came down to those two biggest moments, LeBron James relied on the players who were ready to take the shot. And that's it.
Everybody owes a lot to all their teammates. I think it is a quintessential Jordan fan thing to act like that's a downside. When in reality, it's the whole system. It's a team-based game. To pretend otherwise is to not live in reality. And I think any rational fan should realize that nobody does it alone. And to even entertain the argument as if we should pretend that LeBron did it alone is just missing the forest for the trees.
All right, so let's revisit those two super important plays.
With or without the PEDs.
Yeah, well, I got to quote something, okay?
Okay.
I want you to tell me what you see in common in those two shots on the play call. You ready? So for the Ray Allen 3, rebound Bosh, back to Allen, his three-pointer, bang. Okay? Second one.
Okay.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. What do you see in common in those two calls?
Mike Breen?
Yes, but they don't have your GOAT's name in it.
Oh, that's a good
How
one.
does that affect his legacy?
Does Mike Breen
He's
hate
not
LeBron?
in the two most important moments of two of his rings.
And you know what
so
else?
how does it affect his career?
You know what else?
How does it affect his legacy? It means he's a loser.
Whenever he got the block, Mike Breen didn't say blocked by LeBron. He said blocked by James. He diminished him by not saying his main name. We might have to expose Mike Breen.
You better take that up with Mike Breen.
Hey, Mike Breen's on your side.
I'm not Mike Breen, but here's what I can tell you. LeBron raised a generation of losers. Okay? Who did Tom Brady say he was chasing? It wasn't LeBron, the same guy who was playing in his time. It was Michael Jordan. He's chasing Michael Jordan. 4 and 6. Let's just expand it out a little bit more. Let's put it out a little bit more, okay?
Okay.
8 and 8 in FIBA, Olympics, NBA. I mean, if you want to compare legacies, then you got to compare it to the GOATs, which is 11 and 0 in NCAA, Olympics, FIBA, NBA. That's a winner. But if you want to be like the rest of America and like LeBron's NFL team, the Cowboys, who are also losers, this is the generation that we're raising.
We're gonna get you on First Take today.
4 and 6, 8 and 8. How does that not affect? But we're stat stuffers now. We don't care about winning. It's LeBron's generation. Also, one more thing.
One more.
If it doesn't affect his legacy, then how can someone else be the greatest winner in his time? Steph Curry and the Spurs are the kings of LeBron's generation.
What we in the biz like to call that is understanding that it's a team game.
That's borderline buzz for that term. Let's keep going. I'll let you
What we
slide.
like to call that is it's a 5-on-5 game, and then we understand that. And then we know that if LeBron James played with Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, that wouldn't be a conversation we're having. They didn't win because Steph Curry is the king. They won because Steph Curry got to play with the other best player of all time, who got drafted next to the perfect complementary players to build the greatest regular season team of all time.
LeBron played with 26 All-Stars. I don't know. That's a pretty good handful.
26. Karen Darren Williams at age 36. Isaiah Thomas at age 36.
26.
It's a big number.
So you got nothing to say. It does affect his legacy.
Did I say that?
He's 4 and 6. Does it affect his legacy?
Do I need to repeat the same arguments? Do we need to go over this again?
Yeah, they just go to the team thing. They're like, it's the 5.
Oh, the silly little team thing.
Dude's a loser.
The silly little reality of 5 players on the court. I hate that.
Okay, last topic. LeBron is the GOAT.
Men lie. Women lie. Numbers don't. Michael Jordan has a better PER than LeBron James. He has a higher offensive and defensive box plus minus.
Okay.
He has a better win share per 48.
Okay.
So, Michael Jordan is more efficient, better at offense, better at defense, and contributes to winning more. So how would he be better? Tell me.
Well, I don't know how many of those are true. I didn't write down a bunch of numbers for this.
It's true. Trust me, it's true.
He's not more efficient. True shooting percentage for all their prime years. LeBron's better.
I'll give that to you.
Leading teams to higher offensive ratings or on-off numbers. If you want to get in the nerdy numbers game, this is
I
not
did.
is not a game you want to go
though.
down.
I did.
LeBron has a higher on-off number of how he impacts offense and defense. His on-off swing is higher than Jordan's. I don't know about their team offensive ratings year by year. I didn't look for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. Are you looking at career offensive blocks plus minus and defensive?
I'm looking at career everything. I'm a
That's
nerd-
your problem.
I'm a
You're
nerd
looking
right
at career.
now,
If you
definitely.
look at their prime years, which is what everyone gauges whenever they're talking about the peak of people's,
Yeah.
LeBron's are typically better. So, if you look at all the relevant years only, LeBron's are better. We go on the stats. LeBron leads in far more advanced stats than Jordan does. Obviously, all the playmaking stats, a lot of defensive impact stats, he leads. Obviously, Jordan is great too. He has his steals and stuff, and that's what contributes to a defensive box plus minus.
Yeah.
But how you really gauge a good defender with modern analytics is looking at their team defensive ratings on and off the court, and LeBron has good ones. Obviously.
Okay, all I heard was blah blah blah. Okay, so let me talk to you like a fifth grader now. He
Wonderful.
has more championships. He's 6-0. LeBron's 4-6, right?
He is.
He has a defensive player of the year. I don't know how many does LeBron have? Just like,
0. Shout out Marc Gasol.
Oh, 0. Okay, yeah. Shout out Marc Gasol. How many defensive
First
all
teams?
defensive? Yeah. How many does?
I don't remember. He has them.
I think Jordan has more though.
He probably does.
So he's a better defender, you would say.
Nope.
How is he not a better defender if he has a defensive player of the year and?
Let's talk
has
about
more
this. Is a
defensive
fun
teams?
one. Let's talk about the merits of defensive NBA award voting over the years.
Okay. Let's bring up the Marc Gasol
Let's-
thing.
let's
Okay,
not-
let's
let's
bring it up
not
again.
do
Fuck
that.
Marc Gasol.
Let's talk about it
Let's-
again. We get it. Okay, second team. Okay, we get it.
In the 1990s, do you know who voted for NBA defensive awards?
No idea. Tell me.
Journalists.
Okay.
Do you know how many journalists had access to watching 82 games a year of all 30 teams?
Probably
0.
Wow.
Defensive voting back then was just who had more steals, who had more blocks. Kobe Bryant got like 8 all defensive teams in the latter half of his career when he wasn't defending a fucking thing. For historically, defensive award voting has been terrible until the last 6 years. So, good. Jordan was a great defender for his time. If LeBron was back there, he would have had 13 in a row because they would have been like, ooh, big guy block shot.
Yeah. So you're saying like
Dude.
voting? Oh, sorry.
Wrap it up,
okay.
wrap it up, wrap it
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
One
I'm saying
sentence.
1990s journalists were not watching Utah Jazz games. I'll tell you
Okay,
that.
so all I
Tweet
heard-
length response.
all I
Tweet
heard-
length response.
All I heard is you don't trust voting for the NBA, which okay, that's your opinion. And then let's just end it off with a bang. Michael Jordan is a better scorer. He's better at offense. He's better at defense. That's it.
I'm a person of many words.
'Kay.
I only have a handful for you.
Mm.
It's about the rings.
That's
Thank
3 of
you.
them.
Thank you.
4 rings, actually.
You know
Ooh.
how many Jordan has?
More than that.
6.
Quick maths.
Yeah, exactly. And how many does your GOAT have?
That many.
Less
than 6. Woo!
Subtraction. Bada bing, bada boom, baby. I'll leave it on this. How is your GOAT going to get claps and clamped up by Herb Jones, first team all defense? Thank you.
Wow.
All right, I'm going to speak my truth real quick, and then you can have the table. Here's the thing. I'm going to quote a top point guard, okay? John Stockton sums up how I feel about LeBron. You're not climbing the mountain. You're taking a helicopter to the top. And that is how I feel about LeBron James, okay? I'm going to tell you why he's not the GOAT.
Okay.
Okay?
Citing John Stockton is crazy of all people, but go ahead.
I mean, top 5 point guard of all time.
Noted
but
non-truth teller. But neither here nor there.
Anyway, anyone who has to tell the media they're the GOAT, not the GOAT.
Ooh.
You find a clip of Michael Jordan saying he's the GOAT to the media, I'm all ears, but you won't find it because it's not out there.
Nike did it for him.
Also, another one. A dude that does this, crowning himself in a camera multiple times.
Aura.
That's the opposite of aura. That's a cringe. That's an ick. Ask any woman out there. But then.
Would you want to date LeBron?
LeBron's most famous thing he ever done actually doesn't have to do with basketball. It's just a quote saying, "Cleveland, this is for you." That's what people think of when they think of LeBron.
Okay.
2 of LeBron's 4 rings happened in short NBA seasons, a lockout and a bubble. So you only have really 2 legit ones, right? So let me tell you now why Michael Jordan is the real GOAT, okay? Michael Jordan eliminated 20 Hall of Famers. Meanwhile, you have LeBron playing with 26. MJ faced 7 of the top 10 all-time scorers, 9 of the top 10 shot blockers, 7 of the top 10 all-time assist leader, 8 of the top 10 all-time steals leader, right? So for anyone who's like the 90s wasn't good basketball, You don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
He also prevented many NBA legends from winning a ring, opposed to LeBron, who Steph Curry and the Spurs won during his time. And then Michael Jordan is the only player to win a regular season MVP, NBA Finals MVP, first team All-NBA, first team All-Defense, scoring title, lead the playoffs in scoring. No one else has done that. Michael Jordan's done it 4 times. 4 times. And we could go through the other stats, the ones, everyone knows, which is 6-0.
this is a great Wikipedia article, by the way.
Here's the last thing I'm going to say. In 13 full seasons, which Michael Jordan played, he has 6 rings, 6 finals MVPs, 5 league MVPs, 10 scoring titles, 1 defensive player of the year, 9 all-defensive first teams. And if you put KD and LeBron's careers combined, this is what you get in 38 seasons. 6 rings, 6 finals MVPs, 5 league MVPs, 5 scoring titles, 0 defensive players of the year, 5 all-defensive first teams, and 7 teams played for.
That was a wonderfully well-researched essay. Which part do you want me to respond to? Because that was 1,000 things.
Numbers don't lie. I mean, I'm just going based off stats, and that's all you really need for this argument.
So the cumulative stat thing is irrelevant because, of course, he went against people that are high on the list because their careers are over. Many of the people that LeBron has gone against are still going. These people are going to be up there eventually, but their careers are still going on. So that, irrelevant. Other people won during LeBron's career. Great. Do you think if Jordan didn't retire, he'd win 8 straight?
I think he got bored, so he retired.
Do you think we would have won 8 straight?
Yeah.
Great. I don't think anybody's winning 8 straight championships. So congrats, he was able to go take a break. We pretend he didn't play in 1995 for some reason. I guess neither here nor there that he lost in the playoffs to, at the peak of his powers, to Shaq and Penny. So Hakeem won on his watch, apparently, for doing that. Shout out Hakeem Olajuwon for being the only guy to win on Michael Jordan's watch. You can do this game forever. It's all contextual. If you want to spout, the accolades and stats written down without any context, you can do that. But if you want to apply a little bit of logic to it, we can understand that the best team wins an NBA championship. Jordan was on the best team because he was part of it. That's true. But also, he was in the right team environment that LeBron was never gifted with early in his career. He never got to be with a good GM that could do his job, so he had to go out and do that. If he was on a team that drafted another Hall of Famer who was 3rd in MVP without Jordan, then I think LeBron would have had a pretty good chance of winning at home too. But he was never gifted that opportunity because he was drafted to an incompetent organization. So I would not pretend it's embarrassing to change teams when that's what the league requires of you to win. Because as you say, he should prioritize winning like the real winner from the 90s did.
Who is that number that LeBron wears?
Who is it? Oh, his number?
How are you going to call that man the GOAT who looks up to the real one?
Listen, anybody smart respects their elders and understands where they came from. To think that you can't respect who came before you doesn't mean you can't pass them up.
All I'm saying is, if you watched Michael Jordan and LeBron James, you come out of there saying Michael Jordan's the GOAT.
You got to play a lot of defense, right? I want you to play some offense. Can you give me the argument of why LeBron James is a GOAT? Because I didn't hear it in the other responses.
Okay. I think first of all, I think he's the best player of all time. You look at peak longevity too. I know the longevity argument is the easy one. It matters. It's not the end all be all to me. I do think peak matters just as much, if not more. So we'll say that up front. He's this good this late. That adds something to it. But what really matters is how good you are at the best version of yourself. And at the best version of himself, he is the best mix in NBA history of scoring, passing, defense, making people around you better while being the guy that can lead your team to the highest level. He is not Magic Johnson as a passer because Magic Johnson's the best passer of all time, but he's close. He's in that realm and very close, if not even, with Jordan as a scorer. Whatever metrics you want to decide, they are clearly probably the 2 greatest scorers of all time with Shaq, Kareem, whoever else. Combining those 2 things is something very few players have done in NBA history. Only other players who are arguably the best passer and best scorer in the NBA at the same time is maybe Larry Bird, maybe Nikola Jokic now, and like regular season James Harden. But we know Nikola Jokic isn't that good of a defender. LeBron was elite. James Harden couldn't translate into the playoffs. And Larry Bird, if you want to put him in the GOAT argument, go ahead. All these things and talk about the full package of a player, LeBron's the only one that checks all those boxes. Regular season, playoffs, passing, scoring, defense, rebounding, all of it. There's really no flaw. You can nitpick on certain outcomes of games that are going to diminish a legacy. Great. Nobody's legacy is decided by their worst moments or their best. It's cumulative, what you did over your whole career, 3, 4, 5-year peak, whichever you want to recognize. He is the full well-rounded package. And while obviously he doesn't have 6 rings, he has 4. You can go back and forth on if you think 6 or 4. Obviously 6 is more. If you think that's the end-all, be-all, fine. I like to think contextually, and I realize that there's a lot more factors other than these two guys and what they did that contribute to those ring counts for the teams they played for. So individual accolades, obviously LeBron is just as high as Jordan, if not more, because of the longevity. So you weigh skill, individual accolade, team accolade. LeBron has 2, Jordan has 1. Nitpicking, I'm going to go with the guy who's simply the better player all around because I think the accolades are close enough that they're in the same realm. And in some ways, I value individual accolades more.
Okay. I agree with some of the things you said. We get the basis of your argument, but what I don't agree with is the player you decide is the GOAT based on those things.
Okay.
So you said we're looking at players at their peak.
Mm-hmm.
At Michael Jordan's peak, he was Defensive Player of the Year. He was MVP of the regular season. He was Finals MVP, and he three-peated.
Yeah.
That means that at the peak of his power, there was no player in the NBA who could touch him offensively, defensively, or what he was able to bring his team to. At the peak of LeBron James' powers, whether you want to start with the Miami Heat and then go into the Cleveland years in 2016, he was never able to three-peat.
Yeah.
Right? He was never able to be the best offensive and defensive player in the NBA. He has never done that. So if we're going by your definition of what the greatest player is, your definition more fits Michael Jordan than it does LeBron James. When you talk about the all-around game and you talk about, LeBron might be is a better passer than Michael Jordan. He is a better passer than Michael Jordan because he's more willing. But when Michael Jordan needed to make the right play and the right pass, what did he do in the NBA Finals? He passed it to the guys to make the big shot, whether that's John Paxson or Steve Kerr. So when it came down to being the more skilled player, Jordan possessed all those skills. And Jordan actually is probably a little bit less athletic than LeBron is, but he was still able to match that peak over the years. He was untouchable. I don't think there's ever a point in LeBron James' career at his peak where you could say he's untouchable because he was, in a lot of the years he won NBA Finals, he wasn't even favored. He was the underdog. So that means Vegas agrees that he is not the most feared or the best player, and he really wasn't able to elevate his team consistently year over year, which is one of the reasons why we see that he jumped ship.
Okay, so the only difference between him not having that DPOY Finals MVP thing is he happened to be 2 votes behind Marc Gasol. If your metric of somebody being eliminated from this convo is because 2 people decided to vote Marc Gasol, then I guess you got it. I guess that's the blemish on his career. He never won DPOY. Sorry, he was second. Still first team all defense. Still the best player at his position defensively in the entire NBA. Somebody just decided they want to go for a center more because center's more impactful, which they should have did in the 90s too, but people were less smart back then, had less years of discourse to realize that, centers impact defense more. People didn't know at the time, but over time, people understood more about the game, and now that's why you see bigs win. If Jordan played today, he wouldn't be racking up DPOYs. I'm sorry. That's just clear reality. Outside of that, you mentioned that he wasn't favored to win. It's a blemish against LeBron. Like Vegas saw LeBron and was like, I don't think you got it. He happened to go against the single most successful regular season team of all time. If any other team went against that team, they probably wouldn't be favored either. So I'm not going to pretend that it's a negative that he won as underdog. If anything, I think that's a positive because he was able to win when his team was simply inferior, as the best players should do. And that's the time.
He also wasn't favored against Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, who were both under the age of 25, right? Because they felt that the Thunder team was better. So although he did prevail, he wasn't favored, which means he wasn't really the best player offensively and defensively, and they didn't think that he was able to bring his team to that height.
Or because
right?
they recognized
and
that it was a team that came off a finals loss and was still gelling together, because it's contrary to popular belief, you sign stars, you don't immediately become a great team. Plenty of super teams have failed. They had to prove it, and they did.
And another thing when you talk about offensive and defensive players, it's not just about the vote. When you look back at these careers, let's look at 1998. That's a play where Jordan makes the steal, and then he goes down and makes a shot. When we talked about LeBron moment, he made the defensive play, but on the offensive end, he came up short.
All right,
so
that's it.
He only had 40 points that game. Oh, no.
That's it. That does it for the debate portion. Clap it up. Clap it up. Isaac, how do you think you did?
As best as I could, getting jumped, I guess.
What was your strategy? Not a lot of offense being played.
How could I?
Who do you think was the most convincing?
The most convincing?
Who put up
the Jimmy Butler guy, the one who hated Jimmy Butler.
How
could I argue that?
All right, haters. If any of you were convinced enough to become a fan, now is the time to please raise your hand. Jimmy?
Hell no.
All right, that'll do it for the first episode of 1 vs. 10. Please let us know what topic you want to see debated next.
I think it should be Jimmy Butler.
You got to get back to the drawing board.